Alright class, we're going to learn how to conjugate a verb into the present subjunctive mood. Why are we doing this, you may ask? Well, because it will satisfy two of our requirements in our Unit 2A topics. Using the subjunctive mood to express desires, likes, and preferences, and to discuss the future using quando plus the present subjunctive. So for both of these, we need to know how to do this. So let's find out how. If you've been paying attention in class, you may have heard me already say that this is going to be easy because this is what we did to form commands. So if you already know how to take the present tense yo form of a verb, which I'm fully confident you all can, drop the O, because most of the time the present tense yo form ends in an O, and if you can add the opposite ending, just like we did in Spanish 2 when we were doing commands, you can do this. So these are the 3 steps. If at any point in time I'm going too quickly, please pause and continue on when you're ready. And I have opposite ending in quotation marks because it's not a true opposite ending, but if you remember from doing commands, the opposite endings meant that AR verbs take ER endings and that ER-IR verbs take AR endings. When we were doing commands, we knew that that meant a -2 command would end in ace, a, or n if it was an AR verb, and we knew that the opposite ending for ER-IR verbs would be as, a, or on. But we're not just doing commands anymore. We need to know what the rest of these 3 boxes will be, and they are pretty much what you think they would be. Amos, ace, amos, ice. But what's the yo form going to be? You know that the present tense usually ends in an O, but we just dropped it, so we're not going to be using an O anymore. We're going to be using the same ending as in the he, she, usted box. So here are your endings if you ever need to put a verb into the subjunctive mood. Ace, amos, ace, en, or as, amos, ice, an. So if I needed to put comer into the present subjunctive, I would say coma, comas, coma, comamos, comais, coman. If I ever needed to put hablar into the present subjunctive, I would say hable, hables, hable, hablemos, hables, hablan. And that's pretty much it. Of course, there are some things we need to be careful of if you remember your commands. What do we have to be aware of? We have to be aware of verbs with irregular yos, of which we know many. Because if the yo form's irregular, and we need to take the present tense yo form, drop the o opposite ending, that's going to affect our verbs. So here are some verbs with irregular yos. Go ahead and just write those down and leave space for us to fill these in together in class. And there are a few more I want to add to this list. These here. So go ahead and write those down as well. And again, we'll talk about what will go in these spaces together. What else do we need to be aware of? We need to be aware of cargar and zar verbs. As you may know, and if you remember, this affected our commands, and this affects them in the preterite yo form, because if you have an AR verb and you're about to add the letter E, like we are about to in our subjunctive endings, that's going to make some differences. Like we don't want sase, sase, sase. We need sake, sake, sake. We can't ZE, so what do we need to know? We need to know that car, gar, and zar verbs are going to be affected in all 6 boxes of the subjunctive chart. And you all know that if you want full credit, your Q's and G's must have tails. That's a terrible job because this font doesn't have a tail on the Q, but you guys know that you'll need them. And please leave room for us in class together to fill in 3 nice, neat charts for examples of car, gar, and zar verbs. And again, they will be affected in all 6 boxes of the subjunctive chart. Is there anything else we need to be aware of? Well, of course there's going to be some irregulars, and if you remember from commands, they were our dishes. What does that mean? Well, these verbs here, because their present indicative yo form has an O that's trapped or doesn't exist at all, we can't take the yo form and drop the O. It's not possible. So they just have an irregular form. And while they are irregular, they're not crazy. Look, an AR verb still ends in an E. The IR and ER verbs still end in A. So while they are a little bit strange, they're not totally off the charts. And you may remember these from doing commands. I keep repeating myself with that, but I can't stress enough. We've already done a lot of this stuff, and we can use that to help us do the subjunctive. And as far as your notes go, I would just like you, I have stars here and here because these two have accents in some boxes and not others, and we need to know where they belong. So please include the charts for dar and a star in the present subjunctive and notice where the accents go. In dar, it's just the yo and the he, she, and a star, it's all of them except for the nosotros. And that's all I have to say about how to conjugate a verb into the present subjunctive right now. We still need to talk about stem changers, but this was a good start.